Hi, and welcome to the Martial Art Business Growth Network. My name is Rick Dubidat. I'm the head coach and founder of the Martial Art Business Growth Network and the Scale Program. And I'm joined by my colleague and fellow Growth Network coach, Mr. Kiel Tidman. How's it going, Kiel?
Yeah, good, Rick. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's been an amazing month so far. Lots of results and
Yeah.
lots of instructors joining the Growth Network, which is always good. All right, so what we're talking about today.
We're talking about staffing, kind of like how to grow your team and kind of going from a like one-man band to then getting, a team of individuals there to support and help grow your business.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it's a problem, isn't it? I mean, what the pain points that are surrounding this are they're downplayed, but they're quite vast, if I remember correctly. So the stress and the overwhelm, that's definitely one, isn't it? Having to do absolutely everything yourself, and I think there are school owners out there that definitely don't even realize that they're doing so many different jobs. They're just stressed by the job of running a martial arts school or owning a martial arts school. Well, it's not actually the stress of owning a martial arts school, it's the stress of all the separate jobs that you're having to do, and not doing them well because you can't be an expert in everything. So yeah, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, that's right. And I think over time it just becomes a habit, doesn't it?
Mm.
We kind of get in the habit of everything that needs to get done on a day to day that we never step back and actually truly realize, we're not being as effective in each, individual area. And we're not pushing as much as we could in each individual area because we're just making do. So there's no focus and we're burnout and there's a lot of overwhelm. And I definitely experienced it years back as a one-man band as well. So everything was very, done just very kind of like at surface level. There was no additional thought behind it, and nothing was done really effectively because I was concentrating on so many things within my business.
Yeah. And the thing is, the dangerous thing is that the longer that they stay as a one man band without doing something about it, the more accustomed you are to having control of everything, which makes letting go harder. So when it does come to the point where you really do need to let go, they're like still grasping to it. It's like, no, I've got to be involved. I've got to micromanage and stuff, and that's when the management issues and the problems come in. It's a crazy. I was going to say phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon, though, is it? So it's a crazy thing where it can hold you back. You've got to recognize when to take on the right people and how to take on the right people. So we're going to
That's right.
talk
And there's
about
always that sorry, there's always that belief as well that we can do everything better than anybody else can do within our business. And it's not until we actually look outside of ourselves we realize that we're probably not the best equipped people to do that either.
well, that's a lot of crap, isn't it? Like
It
we
is.
can't do everything better. We can't clean better than somebody that loves cleaning. Remember
Absolutely.
one basically cleaner that we used to hire. She actually loved cleaning. I couldn't get my head around it. Like, why would somebody actually love cleaning? She used to get excited about these different types of, I don't know what the word, mop heads, and she used to try and talk to me about that stuff. I'm like, yeah, Tan, yeah, cool. All right. Anyway, but the first thing I feel that people need to understand how to approach the whole thing is like knowing who to hire and what to hire for. So I'm going to talk about that for a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely valid.
Um, so my thought process and the way that we do it in the BMT framework is the first thing you should do before you decide to just hire somebody based on emotion or a knee-jerk reaction or seeing what other people are doing. The first thing you should do is do a time audit. About a 2 week time audit is probably sufficient, I'd say. If you can do longer, excellent, but a 2 week time audit is sufficient to get a list of all the technique, not techniques, I'm in martial art mode now, of all the jobs and tasks you do in your normal day to day.
Yeah.
The way that you need to approach it is not by doing it, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Just get an Excel spreadsheet every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes, just jot down what you've done, whether it's responding to email, checking Facebook, put down when you're wasting time as well. That's always a good Good thing you spent 4 hours scrolling on Facebook aimlessly, or arguing on a forum. It could be that you spend an hour cleaning. It could be that you spend 20 minutes placing orders for equipment and uniforms. It could be you do 20 minutes on calling inquiries and booking them in. Just basically get an idea of every single thing you do over when you're awake, as you're awake, for 2 weeks. It's just 2 weeks, guys. If you can do this, it's going to be highly, highly valuable. Have you ever done anything like that, Kiel?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the only way I kind of realized, what I was doing, where I was wasting time, a lot of the things that I didn't enjoy doing or wasn't any good at doing. So yeah, that's kind of like where I started, through the guidance from yourself. And that helped me massively just to get that clarity in kind of like where I was at that particular time.
Mm. I mean, as well, like you've got to, you need to get clarity on how long you're spending on tasks as well.
Mhm.
Right, so take some time out to do that 2 week time audit, and it'll pay dividends. Right, so once you've got that, the next thing is going to be to document the recurring activities that you do. So you've got your time audit and you've got everything you've done over the past 2 weeks. Then you need to get clear on the tasks that you do on a regular basis. It might be daily, it might be every other day, it might be once a week. So something like respond to inquiries. Hopefully that should be a daily endeavor for most of you guys in some way, shape or form, or every other day, depending on how you run your business. So document exactly what needs to happen. So it's not just a case of respond to inquiries. No, it's more than that. It's open up Facebook, go to Leads Manager, download the leads into Excel, get the phone, get into the right state, make sure there's no noise in the background, have your script ready, phone, blah, 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 right? So literally step by step, say this, document everything that's being said here, write down what it is, make sure you've got a reminder in the calendar for the prospect and for myself. Make sure there's a follow-up, blah, 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 blah. Right? So you put literally step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 4, step 5, step 6, etc., etc. I just realized I counted incorrectly there. Right, so 2 5s there. So why is that important? The reason why that's important is because once you have those recurring tasks documented, if your first hire is to be based upon that task, you've already got some instructions for them to hit the ground running and just basically get into the job and do it straight away without you having to hold their hand or micromanage. And it should be easy for them anyway, because if you're hiring correctly, they already have the skill set and the attitude to do the job. You're not having to train them on how to do it. If that's happening, you're hiring the wrong people.
Yes, it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So coming on to once you've kind of you've done that, I guess it's trying to find the right people. Where do we start? Where do we start looking?
Actually, it's before that. There's
Okay.
other stages thing you think you should do before that is the next thing I would do. So now that you've got a list of tasks that you've done over the next 2 weeks, or the last 2 weeks, and then you've got descriptions, or you've broken down the important tasks that are done on a regular basis, including taking out the I was going to say trash as if I'm American, taking out the trash, taking out the rubbish and tidying the academy, preparing the academy, etc., etc. The next thing that you should do, based on a framework, is the 3-column analysis, which would be the first column is things that you own, right? So things that only you can do, the things that somebody else could do. And that's based on 2 things. It's based on things that you're crap at. So if you're rubbish at social media, then that's one. If you're rubbish at cleaning, that was me. I'm rubbish at keeping a place tidy. So first thing I would have got was a cleaner. Or maybe there's a class that you teach that you don't really like teaching, or you're not that great at it because you haven't got the patience or something, or the know-how. Then that would be it. So things that other people can do. Then the third thing is things that can be automated. How much technology we've got now? It's only a matter of minutes before we have robots teaching our classes for us. So the first one is like things you own, things that you're going to keep, because you really are the genius in that. So for me, at this stage in my life evolution, whatever you call it, right, in my business, the only thing that I truly own, or the things I truly own, are Marketing, but that's mainly because I like the marketing thing. I love marketing. Find it very, very easy. I've actually got a guy that I'm training up right now. It's not going to take long because he's very, very clever. He's actually a paleontologist and he's decided to work for me full time. Anyway, right. So yeah, so marketing, that's one. Two is I'm going to be the person to inspire and motivate and guide the team. I'm going to be their counselor. I'm going to be their cheerleader. I'm going to be their guidance. I'm going to be their guru. I'm going to be their God. I apologize if anybody in here is religious. I shouldn't have said that, was blasphemy. But like, I'm going to be that person that they look to for guidance. That's my whole thing. Nobody else is taking that away from me. Marketing, I'll still be involved in the marketing somehow, shape and form. And some of the black belt training, some of the black belt classes, I like teaching the black belts. I've got others that can teach the black belt classes, and they do. Like last night, I didn't turn up; they just taught the black belt classes for me. I'm not sure who did, but one of the qualified guys would. But I love teaching that because I feel that nobody can do it as well as I can, as good as my guys are. So I know that I will keep those things for as long as I want until they become a hassle, or until it's identified that my time is better spent elsewhere.
Yeah.
Second thing is other things that other people can do. So, like I said, cleaning. I don't like it. I can use a vacuum, but it doesn't excite me to get a vacuum out and vacuum. If I had to clean my academy, I would do it in the quickest and shortest time possible. And I guarantee there would be things that I wouldn't even notice were dirty because I think differently. But then somebody else, like Tanya that used to work for me, she'd come in and say, "This place is disgusting." I'm standing back and I'm thinking, "It looks pretty immaculate to me." And then she'll get her stuff out and start working. So that's something that she loves. She's better than me. She's got passion behind it, which means she'll put more care and attention into it. So that should go to somebody else. Yeah. Customer service. My head works at 3,000 miles an hour. There's no way that I should be customer service. I can solve people's problems very, very quickly because of the way I think. However, customer service also requires maybe more empathy than I have as an old school martial artist.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not empathetic, I am, but there are levels, aren't there?
There are, yes, yeah.
Right. So putting somebody in place that really, really will listen to somebody's stories of woe about how bad their days and how hard it's been because they've had to get up and then get the kids to school and then had to go to work and pick up the kids and get them and rush and get them back. And like in my mind, I'm thinking that's a pretty good day on the grand scale of life because I'm all about gratitude, etc., etc. But that's a wrong mindset to have for somebody else's, to have empathy for somebody else's scenario. So it's better for me to have my two front of house receptionists because they will take time with people. They will go to the nth degree and have conversations with people about the most tiniest of minutiae. And they say the right things, they care, they show empathy, and they're flexible. They're probably more flexible than I am. So that's another thing that I should give to somebody else.
Yeah.
Does this making sense so far?
Yeah, it does. And, I think like what you said there, one of the things that you don't want to let go of is actually like being the leader of your team, because while you're still there, you're very much able to communicate things in the way that you want things done, nurture them, support them. So I can understand why like being a leader is one of those things that you don't want to kind of give up.
Definitely,
it's important, and we should all be leaders within our business as well.
Cool. So the next part is automate, right? So things like when I hear people say, "Yeah, I've got to respond to emails from inquiries." I'm like, well, yes. On one hand, I understand that, but you do know there's technology out there that you could have an auto response, so they get response straight away, as long as you consider what that response is. You can also have it set up so that it sets up triggers for people to give them a phone call instead of actually typing an email. You can also have automations out there where you have one of 20 responses automated. It just means that the person emailing gets a quicker response, which is better for customer service. And it means that you don't have to waste time sitting there opening up Outlook or whatever you use and then actually typing an email, spell checking, and then making sure it's okay. And then send. No, it automate the process. There are other things that you can probably automate. And if you think about it within your business, Um, Even down to, okay, so how about this? We've got a cleaner, but sometimes I've seen academies where you'll tidy up at the end of the night and it's spotless. You go away, come back the next morning, there's dust and stuff from the cleaner stuff on the
Yeah.
mats. You could automate that with one of those little robotic vacuum cleaners.
Yes.
It's how simple is that though?
Yeah. It
By
is.
having that working overnight for you, it means that nobody has to spend 10 or 15 minutes before the first class vacuuming. What else could they be doing in that time instead of vacuuming? They could be going and checking to see what intros are booked in tonight, read on their profile to see what are the pain points that they want to come and train, and then make sure they've got their lesson plan tweaked to accommodate for those people, and give them another call to make sure they're actually turning up.
Yeah,
Instead
absolutely.
Instead of vacuuming the academy.
Yeah. A great thing about automation as well is it provides consistency.
Mm.
There's no mixed messaging or anything like that. The automation is provides a lot of consistency within our business because it's the same over and over again, repeated.
Cool. So far that's what we've got. You got any other questions on it?
No, so we've got like the stuff that we own, then the stuff that we can delegate, and the automation, the stuff that we delegate. I think that's one of the key parts of kind of like building that team, isn't it? Just getting the right people in. Now we know what we need to delegate. It's finding those, I guess.
Well, to find them, you've got to, I think, again, and these are all like sub steps. That people might think it's going too far, but these sub steps give you clarity on who to hire, and this is how you hire the right people. Because like now that you know what tasks are done, you know what tasks need to be done regularly, you know what you need to hand off and what can be automated and what you're keeping. So now you've got to get clear on the actual skill set that is required to do the job role.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, when I say get clear on the skill set, I'm not talking about you want somebody on to do your sales, so you're just looking for a salesperson. That's very, very, a lot of people say that, and that's very, very kind of low level. I was going to say top level, but quite low level thinking. It's not just a salesperson you're looking for. We're looking for someone to close sales in a martial arts school. So when it comes to sales, what are the actual emotional and intellectual qualities of somebody that will do the job well? So
somebody that's a bit thick-skinned, isn't it? That's why.
Well, this is the thing. This is what I brought up ages ago. It's like you need somebody that's resilient, not somebody that's going to crumble at the first no or first objection. Someone that's got a mindset that is driven by numbers and targets. You need somebody that is knowledgeable, somebody that's likable and friendly and appeals to the masses. Appeals to the massive. Jungle massive. So, yeah, it appeals to the masses. Somebody that can look at a script, learn the process behind the script, and make it their own. Someone that's authentic. You don't want to, hey guys, how are you guys? Yeah, high five. And that, if you know what I mean, if like my clubs are like West Midlands and like Birmingham and stuff, people don't really speak like that. That's the easiest way of getting people to like, you know what, let me just have a think about it. Let me just back up over here. Yeah. You've got to have people that can change their personality, tonality, speed, cadence, everything to suit the person they're talking to, just like I did there. So I slowed it down. People with patience as well, even though they're hungry, people with patience, because sometimes you need to ask a question and be comfortable with the silence so that the other person can think and then come across with the answer or the next question that they should be answering. So that's very, very important. And also the subtasks. If you've got an amazing person that is a killer salesperson, what's their communication like as well for after? If they're only looking at their own targets and they're not a team player, they'll close and close and close and close, sign up 30 people in a month, 50 people in a month, not go and update the CRM, not let the rest of the team know that this kid is signed up. However, he's got low self-esteem, so we need to make sure that we're looked after. Make sure that you do your introductions, all these kind of things. So they need to be a team player. Get clear on the attributes that are important for the actual role in itself. Like for a cleaner, you don't want somebody that just likes cleaning. You want somebody that likes cleaning, that's got attention to detail and has high standards. Anybody can use a mop, but can anybody use a mop and then, because there are cobwebs, use that same mop and think it's not good that the cobwebs are there, I'll use my initiative and I'll get rid of the cobwebs as well, because that's not acceptable. Have you got somebody that's a cleaner that will have a go at the owner because of the state that the place is left in by the team? Because they actually care about the whole business. These are the attributes that I think are important.
And it's quite a lot when you take into consideration, you're thinking about every single, every single attribute or skill set that you want from that employee. How do you find an individual with all those attributes that's going to really kind of take your business to the next level or support you as the leader? Where do they come from?
Well, okay, the analogy that I always think about is fishing. Right, if I'm starving and I need to catch fish to feed my family, I'm not going to go to a fish tank to fish, am I? Because I'm only going to get a couple of little fishes. Where am I going to go? Out into the ocean. I'm not going to use a little net. I'm going to use a big net. I'm going to use a fleet of ships. This is making sense, yeah? So that, linking into what we do, would mean that we don't just look at our student body, because our student body represents a very, very, very small, minute portion of the population, which limits what we can get.
And that's definitely a mistake that I've made in the past, and I know I still hear the same mistakes being made, because we are looking at within our student body for a bigger skill set that we need.
Yeah, I mean, we all do it. I've done it, and it's not to say that you can't find superstars in your school, because I have.
Yeah.
I mean, like my current manager that manages my martial arts schools, she was a student. He started off with her as a yellow belt, as an adult yellow belt, doing the grading. I was like, wow, she's almost as good as my black belt. What's going on? And then a conversation with her, and then her dropping into conversation, she'd love to do this full time. I was like, okay. Then got into the instructor program, went from the instructor training program to an employment offer, because she just started helping out. She just had all the attributes. Then it went from that to showing leadership skills, and now she's a manager. Well, she went to team leader, then now she's a manager of all my academies, and she runs stuff while I'm doing what I need to do. So you can get people from internally. However, it's unlikely you're going to get the quality and caliber of people if you're not looking further afield. So things like Indeed, I use Indeed. I'll put job descriptions out there. I mean, that's one of the next things, isn't it? It's like once you got the skill sets and you understand it, then you create your job description based upon that. Even if you're hiring internally, you need to have a job description written out. And then that's what you use to, that's your net, by the way. Your job description is the net that catches the fish that you want. So if you've got a crappy net with holes in, guess what? You can have some people slipping through.
Yeah.
So places like Indeed, you can prospect for people. So when you go out, I can't remember which book it was I read. It might be a Grant Cardone book or something, where when he goes out, if he sees somebody, say in a coffee shop, that has some amazing attributes, and he sees that person in somewhere in his organization, he'll prospect for them. He'll say to them, like, you know what are you doing? What are your aspirations? I've got this opportunity. Why don't you come along to the office and have a chat? I'll quite happily do that. I've done that before. I haven't been successful in recruiting anybody that way. However, I have spoken to people and just asked them what they're doing and like invited them across. They've never come across, but still, I've only done it a handful of times.
Yeah, it's quite common, that is like the headhunting approach.
Oh yeah.
But you will only know like who to headhunt if you've got clarity on the job description and the roles within there. So it raises that awareness. You're constantly on the lookout for things within your job, which you can only know if you've done the exercise that you've just described.
Exactly. So this is the thing. This is like the methodology, isn't it? Like the backbone of what we do in the growth network, the martial art business growth network. It's the car scenario, right? Which is the vehicle to get to where you need to be. It's clarity, action, and results. You need the clarity first, so you know what action to take. And once you know what action to take, you can get the results. It's very, very simple. which is why this is the approach that we take with literally everything within martial art business. It's get clear on it so that you know what actions take, and that's why people are getting so amazing results within our group. But anyway, it's once you get clear on that, it makes it so much easier because you'll recognize it. You know it in your head and obviously in your heart, and you see somebody that just fits like, wow, no way, that's the person that I want, because you know what you're looking for.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, you're not looking.
in the, you put
Yeah,
yourself in the customer's shoes all the time, don't you? You
yeah.
think, right, if I was a customer walking into to my martial arts school, that's exactly how I, would want to be, treated, spoken to. That's who I would want to present my programs. So yeah.
The next thing would be, so you put out your adverts on, say Indeed or something, and you put it out internally, and you let certain people know in the area that you're looking for somebody of certain caliber to do certain jobs. In the meantime, in the background, you should be creating your SOP, standard operating procedures, right? This is just an extension of your, the kind of breakdown of the tasks that I asked you to do earlier on. This is just going into more depth with this. And in that, the SOPs have everything that employee would need to be successful within the business. So how do they clock in, if they clock in? How do they do their time management? How do they go on breaks? Where do they go to breaks? Are they allowed to sit here? Do they work from home? Literally everything, so that it's like a manual for success for everything. So all the questions that they would ask should be answered in that SOP. And you can do an SOP as a document if you want to. I do think you should start as a document. However, I do think there's a better way of communicating SOPs that are more appealing to people. If you talk to people nowadays, there's less people. There'll be more people listening to this than if we turn it into a book and put it out. People will digest more from this. People might buy the book, but they won't read it. So video, you can do a video SOPs of the, or actually the best way to do it, is a cool tip for you, is do the video first, the SOPs, and then use that, transcribe it, then get it into document. It's a cool tip for you guys out there. So what's the next stage then? So the next stage would be people coming towards you.
Yeah.
So what do you want to know about that?
So I guess, like, people coming towards me, like, how do you filter out the good ones and the not so good ones before then you take them on to the next stage, which I guess would be kind of like an informal interview or a chat? How do you kind of weed out the ones that from the way that they present, say maybe like their CV or in their application? How do you weed those ones out?
Okay, so first thing, there are a few things. First of all, I will look at their CVs and what is written in their CVs. I'll eliminate anybody that hasn't catered their CV to the job that I've put out. So, for instance, I put out for a role recently, and I've had CVs come back not even mentioning any experience or anything of that role in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So regardless of, they might have an amazing background in what I need. However, if they haven't got the attention to detail and care to ensure that this position, which I'm paying flipping well for, to even make sure their application, their first touch point with me as the business owner is good, then they're going to miss other things later on. So I haven't got time for those people. Second thing is, when I put the job description out as well, sometimes I'll put in a very specific way of them communicating their interest. So it could be, if you're interested, reply with send a video to this email address, saying that you want what experience you have, your 3 biggest traits, and your favorite chocolate bar. As mad as that might sound, putting some curveball in that's got nothing to do with anything, chocolate bar, who cares what chocolate bar they want? It means that they actually listen, can take direction and respond to instructions. If you're hiring for a high level person, like somebody from marketing and sales and stuff, then surely you want them to be able to follow instruction. It doesn't take a lot for somebody to say, yeah, and I like Mars bars.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's that thing. So you can eliminate people that way. Next thing is, I I'd ignore qualifications. I know that goes against the whole thing, especially from myself. Like, I consider myself an academic, and I put a lot of weight when I was coming up through university on academia and stuff, and it is important. However, um, there are other attributes that are more important than qualifications that you've achieved. Anybody can get a qualification in a topic and still be crap in the actual subject area. I know, because I went to university with a lot of people like this. So have a look for certain things that they've done, like their hobbies. I like to read, and I go to the gym twice a week. So I bet you're a bundle of laughs. It's like fun. Like, apart from somebody's like, okay, so yeah, I train martial arts 3 times a week. And this is the thing I used to have when I used to go for job interviews. They'd tick the box. Yeah, he's got the qualifications, he's got the experience. Let's talk about your martial arts for 45 minutes. We've done the 15 minutes of talking about your kind of your qualities for the job, etc. So we know you can do that. Let's talk about martial arts and how do you do. This is what interests people, and that's what I realized when I went from being sports bloke, I can't think of the word, to a manager, and then start getting involved in the interview process. It's like, okay, so they all come in, they've all got the qualifications. Because if they didn't have the qualifications on paper, they wouldn't have been invited for the interview anyway.
Yeah.
So we want to know about their personality. So have a look on the CV to see if there's anything that shows they've got anything different about them. Where have they gone above and beyond? Another thing is eliminate people that's had loads of jobs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
That was one. Had a CV and it looked okay until I think it was a 6-year period, this woman had, it must have been 12 jobs. I was like, wow. And they're all completely unrelated. You know what I mean? Like coffee shop, this space and this and this. And I'm like, these kind of all been like just terrible jobs. It's the common denominator is her. She must be the problem. So I'm not going to take a risk on that. And likewise, on the flip side, somebody that's maybe been in employment for way too long, if there isn't a reason that you can find out, I mean, contact these people and speak to them. If there isn't somebody that has, if you can't see why they've been in employment for so long and changing, then that might be a little, it's like, are they too comfortable? Because
they might have the experience, but what behaviors are they, what are the behavioral triggers that they're identifying from that?
Yeah, that wouldn't fit in with the culture of my business, simply because if somebody stays in a job for like 18, 20 years, that means like they're safe. They don't push themselves, and they just, you know what I mean? Unless they've been promoted lots of times within that organization, which is a different story altogether. But if it's the same thing for that long, then there are going to be some ingrained patterns and ingrained ways of working from that business that maybe won't align with the way that we work, which means we'll be banging heads trying to get to think her or him to think a different way and operate a different way and move at a different speed or cadence to what he or she's used to. So these are some of the things. Spelling mistakes as well. That's a big thing. Presentation. Yeah. And when you reply to them to say that you're interested, you want to find out a little bit more, how quickly they respond as well is important.
Yeah. No, it's key. That's good. Thanks for that, because it's one of those, and time is obviously valuable for us, so we want to make sure that we've got the right people that we're taking onto that next stage. We're filtering the right ones through. So that's valuable information.
Cool. Good.
So what's when we've done that, what's kind of like the best way to kind of really kind of get the the face-to-face kind of in, the interview processes and stuff like that? Because if we're getting 10 people in through 10 interviews, that's quite a time.
It's time consuming. You don't want to do, in my experience, you don't want to do 10 individual interviews. I don't like that process. We've got our process within the Martial Art Business Growth Network. Yeah. It involves online interviews group. We've got examples of that. And then then it filters through. You do that as separate groups. Then you'd have the face-to-face group. And then you have an idea of personality types completely. You know what that person's like. You get to know them. And you don't have to spend a lot of time with, you can get loads of people and get through a lot of people, basically. We've got a certain process and way of doing the questioning, because if I've got 50 people, you've been on the interviews with, I've got like a group of like, say, 10 or 12 people. If I say to number one, so what are your strengths and weaknesses? They answer. If I go to number two, so what are your strengths and weaknesses? They just improve on what that number one said. So there's a certain way of doing that. We have questioning structures and stuff, as you know. So once you've gone through that, then people are invited down for the second stage of the interviews, maybe face-to-face, in group. Then it's kind of the same thing, but we've got our format for that. And then it's proof of the pudding. It's like, you're employed for this job, do the job so we can see if you can do the job. There shouldn't be any theory behind it. So they should have some kind of trial, but you need to have a checklist of the things and the standards that you expect for that job that you're testing them for. Otherwise, it's like going and doing a grading, but not really knowing what you're testing for. You need to have clarity. I suggest you have a scorecard as well. And that scorecard is going to help you to, because if you have 3 or 4 people, you need to be able to quantify which one based on data, not on whether you like them or not. Because to a certain degree, that doesn't really matter right now, because they're not showing the real version of themselves until a few weeks later. So you're testing their skill set.
What time would you kind of put that evaluation process at? For example, would it be a few weeks or 4 weeks, just as a guide?
You mean how long would I run it for?
Yeah, just that evaluation process where they're doing kind of like I guess like a trial run, as it were.
Okay, so logic dictates that you would have that run for a period of time, couple of weeks. However, the reality doesn't match up with that. People haven't got time to sit down and wait. If people are looking for a job, they're not just going to look and apply for one job in this area. If it's a social media manager, for instance, they are applying for several jobs, which means they'll probably have several interviews, which means that if you don't employ them, somebody else is going to, and you're going to lose a superstar. So there is an element of urgency, which is why having clarity on what you need to see is good, but you also have your trial period after employment to ensure that you've got the right person. But there's another thing as well, and this might go against what people have traditionally done, but this is my ethos, is never hire one person. Always hire 2. Now I can see people crapping themselves. I can't afford to hire 2 people. You can't afford to hire the wrong person either.
That's true.
What's going to happen is you don't have to keep both of them. This is where you need to use your business head instead of your fear head. Right? Hire 2 people, put them on trial, let them know exactly what's going to happen. One person will excel and keep the job. The other person is going to drop off, or maybe put into a different role if that's the place. So now it turns into competition between 2 people for 3 months. For this role, they're both getting paid. The best case scenario, let's have a look at the worst case scenario first. The worst case scenario is one person's crap, one person's excellent. If you've done your job properly, so if you were crap and you came in and every day you were reminded that you weren't as good at the job as you thought you were, and somebody was outdoing you, what are you going to do?
You're gonna really step up. You're gonna one way or the other.
Well, if they can't step up and they haven't got the skill set, what are they going to do then?
Well, you'd hope that they would come and say, look, it's not for me.
There you go. So they leave. So what you're left with? The best candidate.
Indeed.
Best case scenario, they're both absolute superstars. What would that mean for your business?
I've got 2 superstars in my business. How could I utilize them for other positions?
There you go. And that's when you just have to revisit, have a growth mindset, and think a little bit big. Sometimes we are a little bit too safe when it comes to making decisions. So that's my process for hiring a superstar. There are other things after that need to be in place for training and probation periods and appraisals and disciplinary procedures and all that kind of stuff and the legalities and stuff. But that's for inside the group, unfortunately.
Also, stuff mega important though. It's overlooked, and we're hearing it so much. These kind of things are overlooked. So very important stuff.
Cool. Awesome. So I hope that was useful for you guys watching. Literally not held anything back, just tried to give you some value. If you really want to scale your business and get more solid step-by-step A to Z I'm doing it again, turning American, A to Z information and guidance on how to move your business forward. Just reach out, head on over to www.growth-network.co.uk or message myself, Rick Dubidat, on Facebook, or Mr. Kiel Tidman on Facebook. And then we will help you in whatever part of your business is not where you want it to be. All right. So, Kiel, I want to thank you for your time today, and I'll speak.
Thanks, Rick.
All right. Take care.
Cheers, mate. Take care.